Yeah, so my name is Cass, and I write for CBR. And I'm really
Okay.
excited to talk to you, Maria, about your character Joséfina in Charmed. Ah, it's so exciting. This is your first big TV role. So I guess my first question off the bat was just, what's something about working in TV that you just didn't expect, but was just like such a awesome surprise?
Wow. How fast how quickly everything moves and how fast the industry is able to recover in this pandemic as well. That was really nice to see. And how lovely everyone is. I mean, that wasn't really a surprise, but it's definitely a lovely treat to meet everyone and be so close and personable with everyone. It's
So your character, Josefina, comes to the Charmed Ones, and she's, from what we've seen so far, like the first family member from Puerto Rico that really has like connected with the sisters, aside from their dad, who's a little in and out of their lives for various reasons. So I was just really curious, from like what you can tell us, like what's something about Josefina's presence that like helps connect the Charmed Ones to their heritage and to their Puerto Rican roots that you can tell fans.
I think it's very important for them to get attached to their Puerto Rican roots. I mean, they've been they clearly travel all over the world and help witches around the world, but it's important for them to be in touch with their roots and the history of the type of witchcraft in their family
Yeah.
and where they come from. And I think it's a blessing to be um, reconnected with their family. And it's a blessing for Josefina to also have these role models to look up to as well, and continue developing her powers and looking for her powers with her cousins. I'm sorry.
Totally. I think it's one of those things where it also feels like the introductory brujeria into the show is just so nice, because it was just something where it's just like it is a piece of their life and like their family's legacy that like viewers didn't even know about, and like watching them kind of just
Exactly.
grapple with it too is just so important, where they're just like, oh, I've been practicing this super like colonized, like pretty like pretty Western magic. Like, let's be real, like pretty white and Western magic. And
It's
they're just like, oh,
exactly,
there's this entire world I just haven't been exposed to.
exactly from South America. This brujeria, if you really get into it, is quite steeped in indigenous history through Central America and especially from Puerto Rico. It's quite astonishing, really. It's something, there's Santeria from South America. There is magic everywhere in this world, and it belongs to several cultures. And it's nice to see them come together and share in this.
Yeah, and for the role specifically, because Josefina is coming from practicing brujeria and like self-teaching herself this kind of magic, did you do any research around just like learning the origins of it, or like the specific practices for the role? And if so, like what was that research like?
So I researched about the Aztecs and Taínos and their history from Puerto Rico, the Taíno people, and the brujeria practices that they. It was very important for me to like look up brujeria and where it came from, and the Aztecs, the Taínos, um, their the pronunciation of their spells as well.
Mm.
There are several online resources to sort of look at, and we also have excellent people who know these spells and the proper pronunciations, who give us the information for us, which
Yeah.
is excellent. But I just love how passionate Josefina is about each of her spells and about her family, um, her roots in brujeria. And it's really important that she's come to the family and shared this side of their story that the charmed ones weren't really aware of yet.
And I love, especially building off of that, and like Josefina's character, personally, as someone who like I am non-binary, so like when I heard of the role and then saw you in the role, just like the joy, just the joy, just the joy of seeing you and the joy of just being like, yes, like I didn't even know that like in a show like Charmed, like I needed someone to be like, can we just like step back a second and just like question this entire gender binary of magic for a hot second? Like that was
Exactly.
so good. And so like I'm really curious, like when you read the script, when you got like the pages for Josefina and you're just like watching how the show treated her character, I think one thing that stood out to me at least was like how they, you know, talked about the trans struggle in the way that they were doing like her family accepted her as like a woman because she is a woman, and that like lasted until like the magic question, like they don't want her to have magic. And that's, once again, I feel like it's that weird, like in the real world is that weird thing of being like a trans woman but not like a woman, and you're like no 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 no, like trans
Exactly.
are women. And I feel like the show used magic to kind of get at that point. So I would just love to
Yes.
hear your thought when you were reading the script, when you were digging into the character, like how that felt to be doing that, because it's so powerful and amazing. So I would just love to hear you talk.
I definitely identified with how emotional and attached she was to her drive to prove that she could herself be magical and become a witch and prove that she can be a witch regardless of her gender. Her gender doesn't define her destiny, and she kind of takes a big leap to come so far to see her family and just expose herself like that. And she knows she has more to gain from taking this big leap of faith towards gaining her powers. I think that's what the big takeaway is that you have more to gain by taking risks in life and getting out of your comfort zone and pushing yourself towards your passions and just being straight up who you are, who you're
Yeah.
happiest as.
So one of my favorite things so far in the show is watching Josefina and Mel's relationship dynamic. It's so great because Mel is just very definitely stubborn and definitely like kind of just like gets an idea in her head and just runs with it. It doesn't really sometimes
Yes.
stop to think about like, wait, how is this affecting other people? Like, wait a second, what about my choice, my questions here? And I think
Yeah.
Josefina is such a great presence to like stop that for a second and question her. So I was curious about your thoughts on their dynamic and how it plays out in the show. Yeah, what do you like about their relationship?
I think it's lovely. I love working with Melanie Diaz. She's such a sweetheart. Um, I think their dynamic, Josefina and Mel, is is very heartwarming to see because Mel kind of that motherly figure and is very, like you said, kind of a little stubborn sometimes, but Josefina, you know, she is, I think she's a bit more of the realist. Josefina is more of the fly ready to go and try these new spells and try whatever she can to discover this new world for her. And I think it's a nice like hot and cold dynamic between the two. They're really cute. So it's yeah.
Well, what's something that you think Josefina brings the Charmed Ones, or like brings to their overall group dynamic that they were just like really missing until she came around?
I think they were missing a connection to their Puerto Rican heritage. Not only that, but also their understanding. They have a trans cousin who needs support, who needs that sisterhood, who needs a little bit of guidance through the magical world and through the world in general. And I feel like she can look up to them in that way. And they are really just loving and accepting and really encouraging to Josefina to show her that other people don't define your destiny, and the other, you don't have to conform to this world and the expectations of other people just
Mm-hmm.
because of your assigned birth or the, expectations other people put on you.
So what is the hardest part about playing with magic on set? Like, I can only imagine what it's like to be like, okay, I'm going to do this really cool thing, and how the special effects play in after. Like, what is that experience like, having powers while you're acting?
It's unique. It's definitely unique. It's my first time ever experiencing a show like this. I mean, any TV show, of course, but it's my first time experiencing what it's like to wield powers on screen, and you need to use your imagination, a lot of imagination, and it's really just, it's empowering too.